This is Brent of the Brookbush Institute bringing you another kinesiology taping video. In this video, we're going to go after a commonly underactive muscle. That's the glute max and glute med, or I should say muscles. So this is going to be a technique I use with those individuals who have lower extremity as well as lumbopelvic hip complex dysfunction. That could be anybody from knees cave in to an anterior pelvic tilt, an excessive forward lean. We know that the glute complex has a propensity to get underactive. So this is a technique I'm going to use to reinforce those activation techniques during a session and try to enhance my carryover from session to session. I'm going to have my friend Melissa come out. She's going to help me demonstrate this technique. Now this is a technique we want to be a little bit more sensitive with. Taping has to be done on the skin for it to be effective, and this is not an area that people want bared very often, right? Like, we need to let them know why we're doing this technique. We need to let them know that if they're not comfortable with the technique, we'll find something else for them to do. We need to let them know what we expect to gain out of this technique so that they understand that why we're doing this is that it has been proven effective in some individuals for the lower extremity or lumbopelvic hip complex dysfunction that they're exhibiting. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're actually going to put a little asterisk over the side of like the glute max, top of the glute med. All right, this little technique is something I learned at the Rock Tape workshop, the fascial movement taping workshop. Happens to be one of the very few techniques that I've found effective for the glutes. Like, I've tried putting one piece of tape across the glute max or one piece of tape across the glute med, and it just doesn't work very well. There are some combination tapings that work pretty well for the glutes, but they include things like the posterior oblique subsystem or interesting relationships between like the diaphragm TVA, thoracolumbar fascia, and glute max. We're going to show those in future videos, but you want to start with this technique, which is specific to the glute max. Is a very simple technique to learn and something that you can kind of start with before you get into the more complex stuff. So first things first, since I'm putting an asterisk and not a single piece of tape, what you're going to want to do is you got to cut 3 little pieces of tape that are actually going to fit in this area between the greater trochanter and posterior ilium. All right, so probably just 2.5, 3 boxes for most individuals. Once you get that length down, you're just going to fold it over. So there's 2 pieces. And then fold it over again. There's my 3 pieces. Go ahead and cut that. I'm then going to round my corners so I don't have any edges that could catch on clothing. I can do all 3 all at once, providing you got a good pair of fabric scissors. Notice that the whole time I was cutting these, I didn't have the pants pulled down. You want to make sure that you're prepared so that the pants being pulled down to reveal that skin is as short a time as possible to keep this as comfortable as possible. Once I'm ready, I'm going to go ahead and pull down, not all the way down, but just to the greater trochanter here. All right. And then, rather than ripping off a corner like we have in the past to do one anchor, I'm going to rip in the middle. What you're going to do is referred to kind of like a decompression taping, although that's not why we're using it here. You're going to pull out a little bit of tension, so that would be 100% tension. I'm going to back off a little bit. I'm going to place my tape, rub my thumb right over the top so that the middle is stuck, and then to get my anchors, I just pull the tape off the ends. Now remember, I said an asterisk, so this next piece of tape isn't going to go perfectly cross, but a little at an angle to that piece of tape. All right, once again, 100%, 50%. Run my finger across the center so that that tape sticks down, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull the corners off. And these pieces of tape are a little short, guys, but it'll still work for now. Last piece of tape. Once again, folding those pieces of paper back so that I have the center open, and then just my anchors are covered with paper, 100%, back off a little bit, right in the middle there, anchor, and then I'm going to pull this down just a little bit here, anchor, and what I want to do is make sure I don't catch the bottom of that tape, because that'll rip the tape right off, and pull that right back up and over. And you guys don't have to rub this tape in quite like we've rubbed in the other tapes, because frankly just sitting on her backside and her pants pulling tight against the skin is going to help warm up that adhesive and keep this tape stuck. Thank you. Now guys, I think the reason why this particular technique works, if you think about the shape that we just put on Melissa's backside there, is that tape gets stretched out during flexion, right? So in order to get away from that skin stretch, you're going to want to extend. If you go into internal rotation and adduction, that tape also gets stretched, right? Because we have various directions going there. So I think if we think about this pattern as that typically bad pattern, what happens with lumbopelvic hip and lower leg dysfunction, right? This whole thing, that tape is nicely situated to give you a little stimulus like, hey, get out of there, right? Which hopefully will give us a little bit more activity to the glutes. Since this tape stays on, hopefully that's a little bit more activity throughout the days that follow that session that you just did, so that you get better carryover for the next session. A little warning, I know a lot of personal trainers watch my videos. Obviously, if you're a physical therapist, a chiro, a licensed professional, taking somebody's pants down is part of your profession. It is part of our education. We know that this is something we have to do for exams and whatnot, so that we can see and make assessments of things like skin integrity. Personal trainers, it's not just about your professionalism here. Please be very careful. The client that comes in to see you is probably not expecting for you to even ask for them to pull the back of their pants down. So you need to make sure that it's not only you being professional, but the client's expectations that match. And if for any reason, my personal trainers, for any reason you get the vibe that this is not a comfortable situation, don't take the risk. Gluteus medius, gluteus maximus activation works. Doing those exercises as part of a home exercise works. I got results before I started using tape. That'll all work. Don't put your career, your job on the line because of a cool new technique you learned maybe on YouTube or BrentBrookbush.com. I'm looking out for you guys on this one. So, it is a wonderful technique. If you get the chance to experiment with it, probably try it on a few friends first and get very comfortable with it before you start trying it with other people. Once again, lower extremity dysfunction, lower leg dysfunction. From a clinical perspective, that'd be individuals with things like knee pain, hip pain, even lumbar spine pain. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I look forward to bringing you many more in the future.